Welcome to Brewsers, podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I am your host, Rody John, and today we speak to Brittney the Quiet Storm Cloudy. We talk all about her D1 collegiate background, her MMA career, and her podcast, The Mental Fight. She's doing such great things with this podcast, The Mental Fight, so that we can find out even more about people's mental state as they are going through and after injuries, fights, losses, defeats, wins, everything. It's very important to make sure that your mental health is on top of your physical health, because if you can't do it mentally, you're definitely not going to be able to do it physically. So definitely make sure to spend some time listening to her podcast after you listen to this podcast, and make sure your mental health is A-okay. So while you're doing all that, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. We get to find out even more about our guest. We get to find out some fun facts, and you get to find out even more about your favorite podcast, all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Brittney the Quiet Storm Cloudy. I'd like to welcome to the show Brittney the Quiet Storm Cloudy. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm doing really good. How about you?
I'm doing well. So paint a word picture for us, for people listening. Where are you? What's going on around you? Just let people know what's happening.
I am in Houston, Texas, and currently I'm in fight week right now. I actually have a fight this Saturday. I do MMA, and this is kind of like a last-minute fight. So today, my last days have been, preparing for getting ready to fly out to Memphis for UFL's second show, and all of the fun stuff that goes around weight cutting, and so a lot of that. So that's been fun stuff. So that's kind of what's been going on around me, a lot of gymming, finishing up things with work, and just getting ready for this Saturday.
So how quick do you normally take like a short fight like this? Like how far ahead of time do you normally would take it?
Honestly, I feel like this is probably the most short notice fight that I've ever taken. I feel like other than that, maybe there's been like somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks out that I've taken a fight. But I've already been training and preparing, so I was already ready. So this kind of just popped up, and it was a really good opportunity. So I just really wanted to capitalize on it. And so I feel really ready and confident about the matchup. So I jumped on it.
No, that makes sense. So how does weight cutting work for you? Like, I guess, what are you fighting at, and then what do you normally walk around at, so that way you kind of figure out how much you're going to lose?
I usually fight at 135, and since this is a short notice, this is at catch at 140. And so I've already been training, and my weight's been really good, so I've already been just walking around 150. And so it's just a matter of 10 pounds. So I used to run track, so my go-to is like I just do a lot of cardio. I run a lot. I realize I have a lot of legs too, and when I run the most, that helps me to like lose off my legs, because that's where a lot of my weight sits. So that really helps out a lot. But really, I've just been kind of doing the usual things. If anything, I've just increased my cardio. I try not to be more than like 155 walk around. It's not like, those extra 5 pounds do matter, but I feel light and at my best when I'm like 150.
That makes sense. I always feel weird, because I know it's not gentlemanly for a man to ask a woman about her weight and everything, but I almost feel like there's a weird loophole because it is MMA and you're a fighter, so it's, I don't know, it's a weird situation.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it. It's definitely, outside of MMA, it's like, what? Why would you ask me about my weight? But in this sport, it just becomes such a common conversation to where it's just like, we just talk about it so easily, and that's just a part of it, so I don't really feel a certain way about it too much.
Good. Just making sure. Now, what is a normal, what does fight week look like compared to just a regular training week?
Fight week is, you've already done all of the hard training, you've done all the work, and it's really just, for me, it's like, I just need to sweat and stay sharp and feel good, and stay healthy, right? Not do anything crazy. So that's what that looks like for me. So a lot of drilling, lots of, like just mental preparation as to kind of just rehearsing, like what's the game plan, really just hyper focused on being very disciplined with my diet and my meals and making sure that I'm doing everything to, ensure, the smoothest weight cut that you can have, right? And I actually kind of enjoy the fight week, because a lot of times that's where I've taken off work. So all I have left finally is to just focus on fighting. So I get to really just tune in with myself and do those necessary things that I need to do. It's usually the hardest part is the weight part, but I look forward to that quiet piece where I can really center and prepare for what I've been training for, months for. And it's really exciting and a lot of emotional build up to it. So fight weeks, really, I try to make it honestly as normal as a normal week is when it comes to like how I manage my emotions around it. So I try to like manage my anxieties and feel confident that I've been preparing for this week, for this moment, and I'm ready to go out there and have fun and do what I love to do, so that I don't carry this extra weight of burden or fears or doubts that go into the fight.
That makes sense a lot. Now, okay, I guess walk me a little bit through fight night. Whenever you walk in a building, how early before the fight do you normally get there? And then do you kind of have a routine leading up to the fight?
Yeah, this fight actually is starting pretty early, and I'm excited about that because I am an early sleeper, so it's really nice to not have to think about fighting really, really late. So usually fight day, I always love doing a shakeout. I go for like a run, get my first sweat in the morning after weigh-ins and things like that, just to get loose, shadow box a little bit. Maybe I might do a little bit of pads for my coach or something, rest and relax. And then when it's time to go to the venue, we head to the venue. Depending on where I am on the card, it always kind of depends on how soon I'm ready to like get my hands wrapped and things like that. We always have to go through all of our procedures with the doctors and the refs and the meetings and things like that, just kind of getting situated. I love getting through all of that, and then when all of those things are done, then taking a breath of just kind of getting a chance to go out there to the cage, just to kind of do my own little walkout to see what the venue looks like, what the walk is going to be, visualize, the time when I'm actually walking out there and walking into the cage, get a feel for the cage, walking in, feeling the mats and doing the whole, just moving around, getting a gauge of like the size of the cage, and just kind of, I like to just give a lot of gratitude for that in that moment of like, this time is finally here, and I'm really excited to be able to come out here and put on a show. Within my workouts, within preparing for the actual fight, I definitely like to do like a couple shakeouts. So maybe one when I first get there, to get loose, and then usually I want to really kind of fire out my lungs and feel the fatigue and get tired and get that first win, so that my last little finishing touches or whatever it is, whether I'm grappling or doing technique, just to do my last little movement before I go out there, so I can rest a little bit and then go out there and just make it happen. Usually I'm always about less is more, because at that point it's just a matter of like, I'm just going out there ready to, as long as having the right mental space and feeling good about where I'm at is really the most important thing to me, honestly. So I really just feel it out, and I just try to like just enjoy the moment and just look forward to like doing what I need to do to get my hand raised at the end of the night.
Yeah, I get that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned that you were a track and field athlete. I mean, you were a decorated college D1 track and field athlete. What lessons do you take from that world that you've brought now into your MMA world?
Mm-hmm. I really do honestly feel like the sports that I've competed in, I still use those skills in MMA, and honestly, I feel like
Mm.
they are um, definitely a benefit and a plus to me. And it really all starts with my footwork. I used to play basketball too, and I really do
Okay.
feel like the agility work and the footwork for track and basketball really helps me with fighting. Everything starts from your feet when it comes to fighting. And it's funny enough, I didn't really enjoy running. I used to like do long jump and triple jumps and short sprints and things like that. So I wasn't for the cardio, but having to do all of the running and the sprint work and things like that, I'm like, okay, I already know how to do this, and you go piggybacking on some of those things I did in track and how I've incorporated that into my preparation in MMA has definitely shown up to be a positive asset when it comes to like explosiveness and keeping my feet moving and having good angles and just overall cardio. Definitely has helped me in MMA, and you know, whenever you're doing something a lot all the time, there's this little piece of like, oh, I'm tired of running. But like with MMA, it's like I'm not running all the time. So when I do go for runs and when I do some track related things, I'm like, oh, this is nice. I haven't done this in a while, so it feels a little refreshing. A little bit of nostalgia. So I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to kind of add something different to my training to mix it up. I mean, this sport is definitely requires you to do and incorporate many different aspects of different kinds of training. So, yeah.
No, that's very true. Now, what is your earliest memory of martial arts?
Hmm. Funny enough, like I've never been in any kind of combative sports prior to actually, you know, deciding to learn how to box. I went to some MMA fights at the end of my track career. I started just watching, and it was all foreign to me, honestly. I've always, you know, known of boxing, but I never really watched boxing. Or my brothers and my dad, they were super into like WWE, and that wasn't ever my thing. So, so I never really had like that interest, or I never was like growing up watching it until like being around others who were actually in the sport. And so after kind of going to some fights and watching and learning a lot more about the sport, I was like, okay, there's a lot more than just people punching each other in the face. And
Right.
I'm a very intellectual, cerebral kind of person. I love technique, and so as I started to learn a technique, and I was like, oh, okay, I really like this. It's chess with the body, and it's very, very difficult, and there's very high risk, right? And that kind of made it even that much more intriguing. So, honestly, when I first started the sport, that was my first contact in the sport, my first ever like really investment into it. And so, but the moment that I started, like I really just fell in love with it and very intrigued, and I just haven't stopped since.
That's awesome. Now, from your Instagram, I'm seeing that your workouts look killer. Like, what is your routine like normally? And do you put it together? Does somebody else put it together? How does it all work?
Oh, well, I train at Main Street Boxing Muay Thai here in Houston, and we have a variety of different classes. So I usually go to our MMA training classes, whether it's no gi, our MMA, we have wrestling class and things like that. So those training sessions are led by our coach or other pro fighters who run classes too. So I really just get work, and I go there and I show up and I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do today? And that's what we're doing. A lot of some of the other things I do on the side when it comes to running and strength and conditioning, like I utilize other resources for that, and those are kind of separate. So usually I've taken a lot of different training and different things that I've done over the years, and I'm thinking about